Wake that up.
LA's #1 hip-hop morning show is Nick Cannon Mornings on Power 106.
Power 106, Nick Cannon Radio, community conversations. We've been having them, and we have been begging and pleading to talk with this gentleman, and by only the reason because we know how busy he is. He's been tackling, this year he's been tackling things from every angle. Probably the most superhero-esque type when it comes to his outspokenness, his good looks, and him being a man of his word. Yes, Governor Gavin Newsom. Man, you here. Thank you. Appreciate you, my brother. We talked before, but I know you've been busy. The people been asking for you, and like, you know, as Dave Chappelle calls you, like Bruce Wayne when it comes to actually out here patrolling the streets of California and doing what's right. We know as of recently, when it comes to our criminal justice reform, you've been saying that California is going to lead the charge in many ways. Myself, you know, here I definitely have more of an abolitionist approach, but I can respect and appreciate the fact that fixing the current police system, where maybe someone like myself wants to abolish it completely and start all over. But I feel like right now, 2020 is a year of reset. So in resetting, knowing, trying to right many of our wrongs as a community, as a state, how do you lead us in that direction?
I appreciate reset, but I also appreciate another frame, and that's reimagine, reinvent.
Yes.
And I think we have that opportunity with public safety. Public safety is not law enforcement. Public safety is about creating conditions where people are familiar with one another, trusting of one another, and having a law enforcement frame to solve every public safety problem is exactly the issue that needs to be tackled and addressed. And so I'm deeply committed to that cause and deeply committed to broadening the conversation about what it is we want from law enforcement, but foundationally what it is that we are trying to advance from a value proposition, which is just peace. And armed camps are not simply places of peace.
Right, indeed. Now, Governor, you and with all due respect, as a person of this community and having dealt with California law enforcement for quite some time, I've given up hope, faith. There's fear invoked when it comes to our system of law enforcement. And, you know, as much as I believe in policy and legislation, it's almost as if the police don't believe in it. And at this point, it's holding them accountable for someone to police the police. I've said on many occasions when, you know, modern American policing was established, it was to uphold law and promote public safety. But now this term of enforcing law and actually the patrolling of our communities, specifically our low-income communities where there are less resources, there's more police officers. So in that system, as someone as who's signing all the checks and leading the state, to someone like myself who has lost all faith, hope in law enforcement, what do you say to this community?
Look, I deeply appreciate where you're coming from, and I deeply appreciate how having this conversation with someone like me leaves people wanting, and there's a sense of deep frustration, sorrow, and folks like me should start to feel a little bit more ashamed that we haven't substantively and meaningfully impacted what we have committed ourselves to. And I mean this in the context of the laws that we've passed haven't fundamentally changed things out on the streets. A year ago in California, we passed the most significant use of force bill in the United States of America, but hasn't changed things substantially in the streets of California. And so you're right, it's a cultural change. Yeah. Program passing is not problem solving. We have to foundationally and fundamentally change how we approach things at all levels. And you hear that from people like me all the time, and nothing changes. So I appreciate the cynicism. All I can say is I own it. I have a deep responsibility to meet this moment. I have a deep responsibility to do more than what we've done in the past and to follow through on the commitments and a resolve. And I can only assure you this, I am not interested in this. I'm fully committed to proving this paradigm that we could do more and better, and to distill a sense of optimism in your heart by seeing things radically change on the streets.
Now, the silver lining here, and I'm sure you've seen it, is the optimism of this next generation. To see people peacefully protesting in the thousands, it was remarkable. Just seeing Hollywood Boulevard, seeing San Francisco, seeing all of these different cities peacefully protesting. And chanting things of change. So when you see this and when you hear terms like hashtag defund the police, what does that mean to you?
It means we've got to fundamentally change policing in this state and this nation. It means that we're overly reliant on policing to address social services out on the streets, to address the issues and needs of homeless community, folks out there suffering with addictions, people with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, paranoia, people with mental health issues. And we're asking a police first approach to solve these problems. That's not what policing should be doing. And so when I hear the word defund, I think about those fundamental issues that can radically be changed, and I think can be changed by reimagining policing, not just community policing, the old construct, but something more foundational. And that's the process of reform that we're committed to, not just at the state level, but working with local leaders to ultimately advance.
One of the things in your new reform approaches is in a situation of peaceful protesting, how law enforcement is to uphold the law during those times. It's always been told to us that the officers are there to make sure they protect the protesters, but in what we've seen in recently, whether it's from the National Guard, whether it's from the riot gear, from the incidences where we have seen where there's been tear gas to youngsters, people been shot with rubber bullets and scarred and damaged for life. How do we fix that when we're trying to exercise our peaceful right and we're attacked?
Everybody has the right to protest without being intimidated, without being arrested, without being interfered, period, full stop. And that's not happening in the states, not happening in this nation. We have a responsibility to address that. I called upon Ron Davis, Latifah Simon, to advise those efforts here in the state of California. Ron Davis may be familiar to you and others. Yeah. He led Barack Obama's efforts on 21st century policing. He was an Oakland police officer for decades, comes with deep credibility from the community, but also has the capacity to persuade law enforcement to move in a more enlightened direction. We want to standardize that policing across the state. I don't want to see the beanbags. I don't want to see the tear gas. I don't want to see the rubber bullets. I don't want to see those things in the United States. I don't want to see them in the state of California. That's number one. We also have to change the interaction with these chokeholds and the carotid holds that have to just end in this country, have to end in the state of California. And we're demanding that occurs immediately. And then we have to get serious about, again, what we expect of police and move them out of doing the work that they've been doing as social service side of things, again, and engaging the homeless and people that are mentally ill. There's so many functions that we now have outsourced to law enforcement that are not necessary, and we've got to pull that back, and that's a commitment, again, of resolve that we are advancing, and we're going to advance.
In this idea of reimagining law enforcement, the concept in itself, is it an outdated concept in its as a whole? Can we get rid of, I've said this many times, it's kind of become like a catchphrase. Even, myself and Mayor Garcetti have shared the idea of getting rid of police officers and reimagining peace officers, people from the community, people that are there to uphold the law without enforcing physical tactics or intimidation.
This is the opportunity. These are the conversations not only we should have, these are the actions we need to orient in terms of our efforts. Look, people have lost patience. I get it. There's no wellspring of patience left. People want action. They want demonstrable reforms. They want accountability, exponentially more transparency across the spectrum. And you're absolutely right. We have to reimagine, again, public safety in the frame of peace. I remember Mother Teresa said, "I'll never go to an anti-war rally." And they asked her why. I said, "Well, I don't like the anti-frame. I'll only go to a peace rally." And I think to name it, to own it, and having that different mindset That's foundational in terms of the reform. So I deeply appreciate the frame that you're trying to take with
Peace
this.
officers. Get rid. Let's throw away the word police. Let's take police off the uniforms and put peace on their uniforms. Let's start there from a higher frequency. Now, and the people are speaking out, and the fact that you're speaking with us, like I said, we were everybody was saying we want the governor to speak. We want to hear what he has to say about this. And I've asked every question that the people have told me to ask. But when there are more questions and there are more demands, there's everything from the I Can't Breathe Act, the Black Act. There's so many things that people are coming up with. How do we show the people that their concerns and their voices actually really do matter and that they're being heard on a government level, on a legislation level?
Yeah, as you say, if I have an alphabet soup of, well, we have SB 230 and AB 35, we're going to lose everybody.
Right.
People need to demonstrably see change in their communities, in their neighborhoods. And they have to hold folks like me to account. Finally, I mean, truly hold us to account and not just to words, to action. And so, look, I want to attach a frame of engagement and dialogue. I'm really proud. Look, we're going to budget. I'm shutting down 2 state prisons. I'm getting rid of the Department of Juvenile Justice.
Love it.
I led the effort on marijuana legalization in California.
Love
Prop
it.
47, 57, 3 strikes reform. Man, I'll take a backseat to nobody. One thing I know is I ain't done nothing compared to what I need to do to address this issue. So, man, I got to step things up. I owe that to you and everybody listening. And so I just need to prove myself, man. I'm humbled by this moment, deeply humbled and ashamed of my country right now. And we're better than this.
Well, we appreciate your time, your effort, your strong words, and we're going to hold you to it. We definitely going to hold you accountable. And you know, pull up pull up and come rock with us. You're always invited, not only to the station, but obviously when the quarantine is over, seeing you in the community, being out there in the streets means more than anything, to see you amongst the people. So the invitation is extended. I appreciate your time and effort, and it's a positive outlook. It's a positive time where you and I can have dialogue like this and end on being on the same page.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for everything you're doing, and I look forward to being held to account. Thank you.
There it is, my man. Take care.